Woo! We are in it now, boys and girls. No more hesitation. I am in the Kiseki fandom now. Within reason, of course. This past year, I've been blazing through the trails of games, and I found myself at Cold Steel 2, baby, a direct sequel to Cold Steel 1, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, but gave it grace due to it being an introductory game. But now that I got the background of Erebonia, Cold Steel 2. This is when things heat up. This is the game where I start having change of hearts about some things. But you know what I'm about to say. Before we get into it, be sure to like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 60k. With your help, I know I can do it. And if you don't subscribe, I'll stop my Kiseki journey right here. Or if that is what you want me to do, then I will continue to play it. And this goes without saying, but this review contains Cold Steel 1 spoilers and is structured as if the viewer has already played Cold Steel 1. If you haven't, I recommend watching my Cold Steel 1 video. Otherwise, here we go. We pick up right after the events of Cold Steel 1. A month has passed, a civil war has broke out, Rean wakes up. Valimar is low on energy, so he's forced to move on foot, and he discovers his hometown is close by. After a run-in with the Magic Knight, he reunites with his sibling and familiar company. Cold Steel 2 is separated into acts, and I'm only going to talk about the earlier ones. First thing first, recollecting your classmates. It kind of takes a page out of Sky 2's book, starting alone, revisiting all the places you've been on your field studies, getting the sitch on each area while recovering your classmates who are in hiding since the Noble Alliance occupied Thor's Academy. This also includes your wayward companion, Crow, who is aiding the Alliance with his Divine Knight. I thought this was a great way to acclimate players into the political turmoil in Erebonia, and characters, seeing their new fits, learning what they've been up to, and even though they were apart, they never stopped serving the country in their own way. And there were a few characters who seemed a little sussy in the beginning, and now we get to learn more about. Namely Emma, a Hexen witch, and their role in Erebonia's Dark Ages. It's really cool to have world building intertwined with character backstories. And what's great is with each group of classmates you return with, you get another unlikely ally. And what a treat it is to potentially play as characters you may cross swords with later, seeing their moveset and who you'll possibly be up against. And not to get ahead of myself here, but the Kiseki series does power scaling really well. You're always fighting against the odds, and well, not always winning, but surviving by the skin of your teeth. There's a reason why you need a full party to take on one or two baddies. While collecting your classmates, you're introduced to a handful of new characters, or characters that showed their faces, but not necessarily held a lot of screen time in Cold Steel 1. And you'll notice that every villain has some sort of connection with our heroes. And I think that's some of the most beautiful aspects of Kiseki games, is how it weaves friend and foe together. And it excellently shows perspective. Just because someone's your enemy doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad person. Everyone has their reason for fighting, and in a weird way, everyone has their own crew that they're a part of and take care of. Same way for Class 7 cares for each other. And Cold Steel 2 does a freakishly good job at building up fights between former friends, and dare I say, former classmates. Act 2 only gets crazier, getting more involved with the war without choosing sides, still visiting old places and help sorting out whatever's going on. And sure, it does have its touch of filler. Overall, Cold Steel 2 is about Class 7 returning and trying to bring back their old schoolmate, Crow.
But at the end of the day, I'm C. That's the real deal.
I wasn't too crazy about Cold Steel 1, but all that build-up really pays off in Cold Steel 2. I pretty much enjoyed everything more. The characters, the story, even the pacing. I felt things were actually happening, progress was being made. Of course, you could still expect your usual unbalance of dungeon to story, talking to everyone twice, mind you, for different dialogue, and quests. But you do get a lot less quests this time around, which is why I felt like I could fly through free days, if you will, days before a big operation. Of course, you'll still want to talk to everyone to find hidden quests, but I played without a guide, so I found some and missed some. This is the best way for me to play for my sanity. Anyways, there were a few plot happenings that I genuinely didn't expect to happen in the second game, so it makes me excited and nervous to see where they're going in Cold Steel 3. There are some solid reveals, things I called, things I was absolutely blindsided by, and the ending, oh my goodness, I could not put it down. Again, I was locked in. Just expect everything you loved about Cold Steel 1, but better. Focusing on characters, my mind began to change, like, guys, I'm coming around. You know, I used to hate his stupid win jokes, but they're kind of charming in a dopey way. I don't know what happened. Millie's growing on me too. She is so silly, but spending time with her gives her some interesting depth. And I especially like her more with Eustace because he's the straight man to her dumb jokes. And speaking of Eustace, he's still my favorite Class 7 member, the son of one of the noble great houses, standing against his father and brother for that matter, who I'm shamefully still goo goo gaga for. And also getting to learn about characters who weren't playable in Cold Steel 1 was an absolute delight. And oh, you will all get a kick out of this one. I've said countless times, I'm not a mech person, but Valimar? I like him. He starts stiff but mellows out, and I love him and Rean's heart-to-hearts. I just think they're quite darling, like an older brother. All I'm saying is, if one mech got my back, it's Valibro.
I have detected an abnormal increase in your heart rates.
You all have so much to look forward to in Cold Steel 2. I think it flows really well, and I like that you're drip-fed Erebonia's warfare. The characters only get better. I know beforehand I was like, the characters are okay. They're better. While the core gameplay is largely the same, they did add a lot of new features, and is ultimately why I decided to make Cold Steel 1 and 2 two separate videos. Rapidly covering the gist of battle, it's turn-based. You have crafts, unique skills to the character, arts, which are magic, then basic attacks, items, move, yada yada. When attacked or attacking, it fills your CP gauge. If you have 100 CP, you could do an S-craft, a special move, 200 CP, and the move is even stronger. As long as you have 100 CP or more, you could do an S-break, which allows you to cut ahead in the timeline. This is important because there are turn bonuses. Some restore health, EP, CP, guaranteed crit, etc. Arts take 2 turns to cast, which also serves to manipulate the timeline. Links are important because depending on who you're linked with depends on what linked passive abilities you have. After an attack, sometimes you're healed or an ally covers them for damage. Also, when an enemy is unbalanced, allies will do a follow-up attack and earn 1 BP or a bonus point. Earn enough and you could do an all-out attack. You could switch out allies or change links at any time. New mechanics. Firstly, Overdrive is reintroduced. Originally in Trails to Azure and limited to heightened story points, you have an Overdrive gauge, which a character and their linked partner cut the line for 3 turns. All attacks will unbalance and arts go off instantly, plus a little HP, EP, and CP is restored and removes all status abnormalities. So if you don't have the CP to S-break, there is another option to steal turn bonuses. Next, Rean gets control of his power called Spirit Unification. We got a little sample of it in Cold Steel 1, but in 2 we can activate it for a costly 100 CP, but he's buffed to the max. New arts, rather lost arts, which are gained by defeating special and optional bosses. These consume all EP and can be used once per battle. And lastly, Awakener. He can summon Valimar into battle for 3 turns for a whopping 500 EP. And I'm so glad they allowed that because initially I thought he'd be limited to mech battles, which is another bit we got a small taste of. Now Valimar is fighting full-on Soldats. Divine Knight and Soldat battles are a little different. Pick a body part to attack. Some parts are more vulnerable than others, especially depending on what stance the enemy takes. If you unbalance them, you get an extra hit. Rack up enough BP and you could do a finishing move. They hit you, you hit them, you gain CP, and then you could do crafts that dish heavy damage or stop them from doing a craft. Eventually you could use teammates who have a unique EX art and keep Valimar healed. And I'm gonna be honest, these were kinda lame. Not even because of my natural hatred for mechs, but because they were so basic and hit point sponges. It just wasn't very engaging in the beginning. I think that's because enemies hit hard, but not hard enough where you get CP to interrupt their next craft. So you end up defending, which takes up CP, but not a lot. Later, when enemies hit even harder, you rack up CP faster. Then it becomes more dynamic because I have more CP to play with. So now you have the gist of how it plays. I played Cold Steel 1 on normal and I was like, it's really easy, probably to lower the barrier to entry, yada yada. Now guys, you're gonna be so proud of me. I played on hard. And to my surprise, it was a mostly positive experience. So playing on normal, I realized I wasn't really engaged. I rarely used arts. I felt like I could count on one hand how many times I've switched out characters, and I did not maximize my court usage, up until endgame, which I could really play with my brain off. So this time, playing on hard, now my brain had to be in it. Even in the monster hunting quest, those were not pushovers either. In Cold Steel 2, I was utilizing everything, switching characters, making sure I had courts and slots were up to snuff, equipment on point, delaying enemies, casting arts, overdriving, using a turn to move characters, even making me use items. And here's the kicker, it's not actually hard. In the beginning, it certainly was because you don't have a lot of options for courts to build your characters, but once you have access to shops, courts, you're fine. I did land myself a few game overs, but a little adjusting of your setup and you'll be golden. So what I liked about playing on hard is almost every time the characters were like, whew, this is tough. And finally, I could agree. It was a challenging fight, whereas on normal, I've always been like, that wasn't too difficult, bro. Although playing hard late game, that was a struggle and had my brain working overtime to employ these cheesy strategies. Now, I'm not an expert on hard modes. The last game I played on hard/expert mode was Trials of Mana Remake. Now, it really did feel like the Kiseki game's hard just makes bosses super spongy. specifically for mech fights. I am proud that I beat Trails of Cold Steel 2 on hard mode, but I don't know if I really want to play the rest of the games on hard. Maybe if I'm feeling cheeky, I'd fight lesser bosses, aka generic monster fights on normal, but when I know an actual character fight is coming up, I'll switch to hard. Because unlike Cold Steel 2, where you're locked into whatever difficulty, I hear Cold Steel 3 and 4, you could change it. So, we'll see. But also, Trails is about story for me. Don't get me wrong, the combat is amazing in Trails games, period. But I am dying to know the next story beat, and I don't care for this harder barrier. Still on the topic of building characters, honestly, nothing's changed in the court system. Super quick rundown, courts are made from Sepith and are in charge of what spells and stat buffs you get. There are generic courts, rare courts, and super rare courts. General courts teaches you a spell or raises a stat. Rare courts do that plus a status enhancer. Super rare courts gives you more than one spells and a status enhancement. Your Arcus, the unit holding all your courts, has lines that you could put the same stat raising courts on the same lines or different ones, and they stack. What is different are EX orbs, which are used to enhance Valamar's stats. It's very simple to craft and equip. Outside of combat, everything else is largely the same. You do every story-related thing, save the day, then you get a free day, which you could spend with teammates. You have limited bonding points to use to get to hang out, get these cute scenes, and earn Link experience. The higher the Link level, the stronger Link abilities you unlock. New is an overarching quest, which I really enjoyed. Throughout your journey, you'll find your classmates outside of Class 7, and you'll be recruiting them along with you, and they'll aid you by opening up shops, training grounds, and various other amenities. I like this because it really felt like these operations were bigger than just Class 7. It was Thor's, you know? And I think there's something magical about a bunch of kids trying to do the impossible, defy all odds. And what a great way to give more characterization and limelight to NPCs. Quests are still alive and well, and I think one of the major ways pacing felt better is significantly less quests. I did not feel like I spent hours on quests like in Sky back in the day. Fast travel is quickly introduced, whether it's going from town to town or places within that town. I keep forgetting to mention this in nearly all of my Kiseki coverage, but turbo mode. Turbo mode has always been a thing since Sky, but it cannot be understated how much I love turbo mode. Mind you, I deliberately turn off turbo mode because I think it looks nicer and to demonstrate what I'm talking about in reviews, but when I'm not recording, turbo mode. And turbo mode can get you into a little trouble in battles because sometimes things happen so fast you're not quick enough to S-brake, it can get messy. But it's still a risk I'm willing to take. Another thing I didn't talk about nearly enough, the treasure chests. Unfortunately, they dropped the chest messages in the Cold Steel arc, as after opening a chest it would say some corny joke. Loved it. But this was due to some back-end error where chests were programmed individually and the programmer didn't want to write the same "this chest is empty" generic message. So they gave each chest a unique message, and I just thought that was hilarious. Sadly, that died in Cold Steel 1, but in a way, they brought it back in Cold Steel 2 with trial chests. These chests require specific teammates to participate in battle. Overcoming them will not only award them Link experience, but will allow them to use overdrive together. In the beginning, party members could only overdrive with Rean, but if you don't have the required members in your party, you get a little chest message regarding the characters in question. Skipping the graphics because it's literally Cold Steel 1, I think the most that's changed is they added a new mouth animation. Correct me if I'm wrong, comment section. And the music, I largely feel the same. It's fine, good. Falcom doesn't have bad music. Cold Steel seems to lean heavily into rock, which hey, I like rock, you know, I can get down with the sickness. I think there's a part of me that longs for the jazzy tunes of Sky, but anyways, Cold Steel 2 does add a handful of soundtracks as well as remix some. Of course, you'll hear a lot of familiar ones as well, but you know what stood out to me in a game that largely stuck to rock music? Opera. And that's why In the Depths of the Spirit Shrines is one of my favorites, and it reminds me of Vita being a famous singer and all. Cold Steel 2 has solidified my interest in the Erebonian arc. Cold Steel 1, you know, it's an introductory art, I try to give it grace, I was like, eh. But CS2, no more doubts, no more hesitation, I'm in it. The wishy-washiness of me has washed away, and I am so excited for Cold Steel 3. And I don't know about you guys, but I have to take a break in between games, otherwise I will get burnt out. And I want to enjoy my time in Erebonia. So, no rushing. Cold Steel 2 expands on so much, and nor does it try to fix what's already flawless. I think nearly everything is better. The pacing, still slow, but better. The bonding moments go deeper or are even more comical. Added busted gameplay mechanics that I got to better engage with since I was playing on hard mode. The only thing I'm iffy on are the mech battles. Still not my thing. I hear they get better. Curious, I asked my Discord this question, I'll ask you guys. Do you think the mech battles in Xenogears are better than CS3 and 4? Or do you think CS3 and 4 are better than Xenogears mech battles? I'm curious, because I will say, mech battles in Xenogears, they're pretty good. It physically pains me to compliment Xenogears, but they did that right. The new characters they introduced are compelling, like McBurn. Yo, I got my eye on him. There is so much to love in Cold Steel 2, and I know Cold Steel 1 is very iffy. Trust me, I was there. I agree with you, but I was very happy to have powered through 1 to get to Cold Steel 2, and now I'm in the thick of it, baby, with Cold Steel 3. Not to mention, if you played the Crossbell arc, there ain't no way that you ain't hype. And you absolutely should play the Crossbell arc, by the way, because it's my favorite. Now, for those who have played Cold Steel 2, keep watching, because now we're getting into spoilers. If you haven't, this is where the video ends for you. Thank you so much for watching, supporting. I love you guys. Thank you so much. But now, spoilers. I think it's important to critique the things that we love. The finale was not the finale of Cold Steel 2. I think there were like 2 extra chapters. One of them was the Crossbell, which I loved it. I was here for it, and it could have ended there. But then it kept going. And to me, I didn't need whatever came next, which is like the true final boss, the true dungeon. And you don't really earn anything, because I guess, like, don't get me wrong, you do get closure. You do get this very nice scene after you defeat the final boss, which I appreciated. But, like, why couldn't they have that when they, like, you know, fought the alleged final boss? I know some of the super fans of the Kiseki series, you know, eat it up. More Kiseki, the better. But for me, games need to know how to start and when to end. And this didn't know when to fucking end. And now what I really want to fucking talk about. Fuck Rean. Fuck Rean. I don't like Rean anymore. Let me explain. Rean is a no backbone having bitch. Oh, I'm about to pop off. Yo, before y'all cancel me, just hear me out. I understand. Let me preface this bitch right now. I understand I am missing context. But as far as I know, having only played Cold Steel 1 and 2, and seeing the opening of 3, this is what I got. Daddy Osborne comes back, and now Rean is just a fucking soldier attacking Crossbell. Like, he's just a part of the army now. Like, Daddy says to do it? Okay. Like, I just thought that was so bitch made. Like, this is why Lloyd's my guy. This is why Lloyd's my fucking guy. Because while Lloyd could have, like, teamed up with whatever. Oh, man, sorry. I'm talking about Crossbell stuff now. Y'all, whew, so mad. Okay. Point is, Lloyd said, fuck the system. I'm not a part of this. Rean said, I'll be a part of the system, essentially. All because Daddy Dearest said so. It's not even just him joining his dad. His best friend. Like, Crow is his best friend, y'all. Crow is his motherfucking guy. And Crow spent his entire life trying to kill this man. The man somehow survives. And then Rean just shits and pisses all over Crow's legacy by joining Osborne? Fuck off. Miss me with that shit. Miss me with that shit. I understand his homies, his, like, you know, class 7 homies are like, oh my god, we understand why you chose what you did. Like, nobody blames you. Nobody, you know, blames you for this, whatever. I blame you, bitch. I blame you. I am a Crossbell girl through and through, honeybee. Speaking of that, knowing that Rufus, my husband, is the new, like, acting what governor, mayor, whatever of Crossbell, I was like, I feel so conflicted right now, because on one hand, I'm on my knees for Imperial Dick. On the other hand, this is my city. What are you doing, Rufus? It's a struggle out here. And it's so fucking ironic, right? So Osborne's whole thing is like annexing other countries, cities, whatever, neighboring territories, you know, which is what happened to Crow. And then Crow became the villain that he is because of Osborne's actions. And now Osborne is doing the same shit to Crossbell, and now Rean is helping him with that? Rean's just creating other Crows. Rean sucks. Rean, absolutely on my shit list. And yes, okay, that's my few-fees. That's my emotional side talking. Now, if I'm like logical, put my little, I don't know, left brain, right brain cap on, whatever the logical side of the brain is, I understand he's Erebonian. Why wouldn't he work for Erebonia? Clearly, when him and Lloyd fought, he didn't want to kill Lloyd. He didn't even use his, like, superpower, because, like, you know, if he went, like, fucking white-haired Rean, he would have absolutely decimated Lloyd. Yes, that is true. Like, I believe Rean is still a good person, and he doesn't even like doing what he's doing. In fact, there was a really good scene with him and Toa, where Rean just, like, lets it all out. Like, he's tearful, he's really upset, he's emotional, he's hurting, he's not happy with, like, what he doesn't seem proud, you know? He doesn't seem proud. So, like, to give credit, Falcom is doing very well with this character in terms of, like, yanking you left and right, you know, like morally gray characters. Like in Kiseki in general, I think is really good with like, oh, I really like this character. Oh shit, like now Rufus is the villain. Oh no, but I really like Rufus, but like he's hurting Cross. Like, you know, you're rooting and cursing the same characters at different points in time. It's very interesting, and I think it's actually very well done. And I understand it's all about perspective, right? Like Rean and Lloyd, like they don't know each other. To Lloyd, Rean is the enemy, you know? And alternatively, you know, Lloyd is the enemy to Rean. Neither of them are actually bad people. Fuck Rean though. Because Rean's a bitch who just, I don't know, Osborn came out of nowhere and now he's just like, whatever you say. I can't get over that. I'm sure when I played Cold Steel 3, I will have more context and it'll be great. But until then, fuck Rean. We appreciate a flawed protagonist, just let me be in my feelings and say once more, fuck Rean. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my other videos on the Kiseki series, specifically my crossspell videos, because that's my favorite arc. And if you still like me after hearing what I had to say, be sure to like and subscribe, and join the Patreon, where we talk Kiseki there too. And y'all will get play-by-plays of my feelings on Cold Steel 3 as I go through it, when I go through it. Anyways, I love your faces, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!